Today I'll be discussing why I continue to invest in lithium on almost a bi-weekly basis at this point, breaking down the narrative, the thesis around this investment, as well as some actionable companies you could actually get into at the very end of this video. One in particular is really what I'll focus on. But what you want to understand here is these companies. For example, let's just take Tesla. Out of all the EV companies, they all really need three key commodities: lithium, nickel, cobalt. In order for their electric batteries to actually hold a charge, you need these metals. And this is why I'm very, very interested in these. But lithium in particular is very, very important. And I'll explain to you why. So the current batteries on the market really take around half an hour to an hour to charge. Those are the ones that they essentially have processed currently, especially with Tesla, where they have some models like the Tesla Model S that are fairly affordable for that current battery. But again, I don't see this as being scalable when you're looking at the 10-year time horizon. That's really, I'm looking towards 2030, especially with the Biden administration talking about the electrical vehicle fleet. We'll get more onto that later with the thesis. But as far as the narrative goes, you have these current batteries that, again, half an hour to an hour to get a full charge. You do have some issues there. Now, there is something called solid state batteries. Not only do these type of batteries take less, about the same time or less, the same amount of time that it would take you to fill your car up with gas. So this is vital for scalability. If we truly are going to electricalize the vehicle fleets in the United States and then kind of spread it out to many more countries, especially in emerging markets, one of the most important things is being able to have speed here. People don't have an hour to sit around on their, commute to work when they're already running late. They do have, less than 5 minutes to pop into a gas station really quick, fill up their car with gas. Now, if we can make this same situation be able to happen with electric vehicles, this is what we're aiming for. And that's why I think solid state batteries are where a lot of these things are moving to. And if that's not enough, these solid state batteries actually have double the range on average than the standard current battery has on the market. And again, most of these batteries are comparable with these different companies because you have to understand this is a capital market. So they're all competing, which is incredible. It's a very good thing. They're all competing for these things. And with this, it really comes down to, okay, what are the essential things to build this solid state battery? And that's where we kind of move into the thesis. So let's break it down. Solid state batteries require a lot more lithium than the current batteries on the market. This is important to understand because not only is there an increase in demand, but we will talk about supply here in a second, how there's a lot of shortages here. So you can't just only look at demand or only look at supply. You have to combine these two things. It's like yin and yang. Because one in a vacuum does not necessarily mean that you can draw conclusions versus the other in a vacuum. So when you kind of balance these two, the demand, you have to understand this isn't a new thing. Lithium, I'm assuming you're probably watching this maybe on your laptop, maybe on your mobile device. Well, guess what? That requires lithium. A lot of these batteries need lithium. And so there's a continual current demand for lithium ask yourself, do you think there will be more technology in the future or less technology? I would probably assume there's going to be more devices in your home. Now, whether you like that or not, that's topic for another conversation. But lithium is vital in these different things. When you look at 5G technology, lithium is one of the components. And when you kind of match this current market demand with this increased future demand of lithium, and you look at the charts of lithium, it really has not caught up yet. Yes, it's seen an incredible rise over the past 12 months, really, but this is truly just the beginning, in my personal opinion, for lithium, because when you're just looking at that demand side, you may go, okay, that's compelling, but you haven't quite factored in supply yet. And yes, if lithium grew on trees and anyone could go around picking up lithium and selling it to their local electric vehicle guy or computer manufacturer, this would be incredible. But luckily, that is not the case. So with lithium, it's very important to understand this is only actually mined in a select few countries, and a lot of these countries actually aren't that stable. So this is always something to take into account when you're looking at commodities, because you want to understand where is this produced. What countries are these things produced in? I talked recently about the global semiconductor computer shortage, and that was very interesting because there was a continued demand for these car companies, these more traditional car companies like GM, Toyota, Nissan, these different car companies, and Subaru. They essentially could not manufacture new vehicles because there was this supply shortage. And when something is only manufactured in certain countries and you have a global pandemic situation, it causes a lot of issues. And it's the same thing when you look at lithium. So as I said, there's a constant, steady demand. It's not like this is a very volatile demand. This is constant, steady demand because you need lithium to build what you're watching this on. Again, I'm assuming you're watching it on like some sort of mobile device or maybe an Apple computer, I don't know. But when you have this continued demand, then you have this topped off with the building of electric vehicles. As more of these things get rolled out, I really think the demand is pretty obvious there. But on the supply side, it's very, very vital to understand that the countries that are mining lithium are really not that stable. You have things like Indonesia, you have things like the Philippines. And with this, and even Argentina, you could throw on that list as well. With this, you have to understand that it's not like overnight. If we need a ton of new electric vehicles or we need a ton of new laptops, we can just go, hey, let's flick a switch. Just like in, let's say in another market, you can just say, hey, let's, like, for example, blockchain. You can kind of flip a switch and increase the miners by building more incentives. So like more block rewards, if you're familiar with how cryptocurrency mining works. This is one of the beautiful things, is because these things can happen very, very fast. That's an agile market. Now the commodity market, it's a time-tested market, and it's not very agile. It takes a long time to do these things. You have to actually focus on researching the mine, where to actually drill the holes, invest in the actual equipment, all these different things. So this is kind of like a barge ship. It's not able to turn on a dime, whereas like something like let's say a blockchain is able to add new incentives into the ecosystem, and it's kind of like a jet ski. They're able to literally pivot at a moment's notice if they need to, if they see like a hack or anything like this happening. But again, back to this kind of supply problem, not only is there a lack of investment in these kind of more underdeveloped countries in these lithium mines, but there's actually a lot of problems because, again, the stability here. For example, in Argentina, there's a lot of issues with the government, the currency, all these different things. Again, a topic for another day, but you really have to take these two things into account. So this is kind of the thesis around the supply and demand, why this continual rise in demand and the steady demand matched with the supply issues. They also have supply chain issues, obviously, with getting things shipped during this current period. This kind of moves me in to the last. How do you actually take advantage of this? How do you invest in it? Do you invest in lithium? Do you invest in lithium miners? I'm going to basically explain to you kind of the one thing I would highly recommend if you're interested in this space. Let's get to it. So what I recommend is at least taking a look at Global X Lithium Battery ETF. This essentially holds the top 41 companies in this space. I'll explain a little bit more of that later, but look up ticker symbol LIT. This is very, very important in my opinion because, again, you're kind of getting an ETF of this industry. So instead of just betting on which individual horse will win the race, you can kind of bet on all the horses essentially. And this doesn't just hold the lithium miners or just the car manufacturers, but rather it holds companies that are actually battery manufacturers, it holds the car manufacturers, it holds the lithium mining stocks, and it holds the top ones. So if you don't have time to really, really dig in and spend, I would say, multiple months researching this space just individually for this lithium play, this lithium thesis, this is an interesting opportunity. Again, not financial advice, but this is for educational purposes. I think you should take this in kind of as data, form your own opinion with it, and then move forward from there. And the main thing to keep in mind here is, yes, lithium, the individual metal, if you're going to trade the actual like lithium metal in the commodities market, it has seen quite a rise. It's been up 129% around there in the past 12 months. I truly think this is just the beginning of this cycle. So many people get caught up in this, and that's why I highly always recommend zooming out historical charts. Go all the way back, ideally at least 50 years in commodities markets, and really try and study, okay, what are these trends? Is this cheap? Is this expensive? Then you have to factor in, okay, what's the current narrative? What is my thesis around this with supply and demand taken into account? And you can go much more advanced with this, or you can just kind of keep it in that framework that I laid out for you. So again, thesis, narrative, understanding how to actually profit off of this with this, again, ticker symbol LIT, Gold X Lithium ETF, holding the top 41 companies. So that's all for today's video. Let me know in the comments what you think of lithium investing. If you have an interesting play as far as a mining stock with lithium. Again, I mean, to be completely honest and upfront, I do play other tickers, essentially, like other positions here. I'm not just only in lit, but there's many different ways to play this market. It just all depends on kind of your own personal risk tolerance and things like this. Personally, with a lot of these markets that are more kind of thesis and narratives, I'm not putting money that I'm making just passive income as far as like I run e-commerce businesses online. Rather, I'm pulling profits from other investments, typically in other sectors. For example, cryptocurrency is in an incredible bull run. So I continually pulling little small profits to just average into other plays that I find interesting for long term, even after this current crypto bull run ends, because eventually it will come to an end. So that's all for today's video. If you enjoyed it, like, subscribe, button all, invest global, and until next time.